Hello, hello. Thank you for joining my live. And what we're going to be talking about today is putting colour in your garden in the winter. And in particular, we're going to talk about how to get a bit of warmth into your garden in winter. And as you drive, and probably the worst part of winter in Melbourne is the first part of winter. As you drive around Melbourne at the moment, a lot of gardens look really sad and bleak. You know, the leaves are all dropped off the trees, and there's no colour at all, just a bit of green, a bit of brown, and it could look pretty sad and pretty dreary. So what we're talking about today is overcoming that sadness and dreariness. Now the interesting thing is that the first part of winter is the most difficult part. What happens is your summer perennials, your roses, they stop flowering. Your maples and your magnolias and things like that, the deciduous ones, lose their leaves, and so you find everything sort of wound down at the moment as we head into the shortest day. So it's basically this is the bleakest and most difficult time of year. But don't despair, because we can, like, what happens in the later part of winter, it's kind of exciting, because what'll happen is that you get like your flowering quince starts to flower, and that's the very first blossom, and that'll start probably second or third week in July. You'll start to get flowering quince, and then as you get into August, you start to get various flowering plums and peaches and apricots and various blossoms, and the magnolias will come in late August. And things like your happy wanderers and your whites and blues, they start coming at the end. So as you move through winter, it basically gets more and more exciting and better. But right now, this is the bleakest time of year. So this is a really good time to go out in your garden and take stock of the colour or lack of colour, and also another important point. I remember when I built my first home, and I carefully chose all my plants, and I wasn't as experienced, nowhere near as experienced as I am now. It was my first ever whole garden that I did for myself, and I love deciduous trees. I love all the different maples and things like that, and I planted all different perennials. And when people came I planted that house in late spring, and we had a beautiful, colourful summer. The perennials, I couldn't believe how good the perennials went. And then winter came, and all my perennials sort of shriveled up and dropped their flowers and dropped a lot of their leaves, and all my maples and things dropped their leaves. And all of a sudden I had the saddest and most barren garden I'd ever seen. And so I learned a lesson from that, and that is to balance, and I do use that now always in my garden designs. I'm very careful. A person will come in and say, look, I want a weeping cherry, and I want this and I want that, and I look at it, I think that's all deciduous. I've got to balance that with a bit of evergreen, and maybe I'll balance it with having more, like, you can give them all deciduous trees, but use some larger evergreen shrubs that'll carry the weight in the winter. So basically a proper balance of evergreens in your garden will help that eliminate that bleakness. And then once you've got that balance, the first step would be to have a balance of evergreen in the garden. So and great evergreens are things like your evergreen magnolias, your camellias. There's lots of nice evergreen bushes and things like that you can do, even your grasses and things like that. So first of all, make sure you don't do your garden with too much deciduous, because beautiful in autumn and then very bleak in the winter. So I do like deciduous trees, and I enjoy looking at them, and particularly I love looking at, say, a deciduous birch tree with its lovely white trunk in the winter. I think they're almost at their best in the winter, but it's still important to balance evergreen and deciduous in the garden. And then once you've balanced it, what's good to look at is colour, and getting some colour in the garden. And let's have a look at some of the plants that you can use. One of the best plants, and what's interesting is that they're quite economical, so you can buy them right down to little tiny pots. But there's dwarf nandinas. This particular dwarf nandina is called a moonbay. There's lots of different ones, probably the two best ones for colour in Melbourne are Moon Bay and then the one that's just called Dwarf Nandina. Your Moon Bay is a very fiery red, as you see here, and your other Dwarf Nandina is a sort of a richer red mixed with oranges and things like that. But and because they're fairly economical to buy, you'll find that you could plant patches of them, you can plant rows of them, and they're extremely hardy. They're they're one of the lowest maintenance plants on the market, and my dad had numerous nursery properties, and this was his standard thing for putting up the driveway. And you'd drive into one of his nurseries, and you'd have this beautiful driveway of brilliant red Nandinas, and it was fabulous. So your Nandinas are fantastic for getting some nice bright red, and I reckon nothing warms a winter garden. It's almost like having a large plantation of these is almost like lighting a fire in the garden. It really does warm the garden. So that's your Nandina, but let's have a look at some other things.
And we are going to have an article coming out soon, if it's not out already, that's all about Nandinas and really goes into depth about the different types, how you can take care of them, the different applications. So if you're quite liking the look of these Nandinas, go hop over to our website and you can read up on the article all about Nandinas.
Yeah. Now, another comment that I wanted to make is that this is Sasanqua camellias for the first part of winter, one of your best sources of flowers. And this one here is a white Sasanqua. Now, what I notice is that in the depths of winter, your white Sasanquas sell really poorly. They don't really sell very well at all, because they just look cold. And I'll show you a beautiful soft pink, and what's interesting is in summertime the soft pink ones don't sell that well because people love the cool of the white. They imagine that that's going to look really good. But when it comes to winter and they're out buying their camellias, what's selling like crazy at the moment is these lovely soft pinks like this. And I think that is just so much warmer on a cold day. Say a row of these or a few of these out in the garden, it's much warmer and much friendlier to look on an icy cold day than a pure white camellia. So that's just a little hint that when you're choosing winter flowering plants, your white plants look cold and your pink flowers look warmer. So that's just a little hint there. But camellias are a great way to get some nice evergreens in under your deciduous tree. So camellias are great. They're good, reliable, easy to grow evergreen, and they're an evergreen that will do well under your deciduous trees. Now these, we haven't been able to get enough of these. These have been so popular. These are an African plant. It's called this is called Erica ruby shepherd, and it's actually a Melanthra, and it looks like a sort of a Scottish heather, but it's not. It's a very, very tough plant, and it flowers lovely warm colour, and it flowers for months and months as you go into late autumn and then go into the winter. You've got months of flowering with these, really, really beautiful, and they seem to be impervious to a lot of flowers. When you get a really cold, wet, miserable spell, a lot of flowers will mess up on you. These seem to be impervious to the weather. So I'll lift these up, yeah. So these are impervious to the weather, beautiful colour, Erica ruby shepherd, and months of winter warming in the garden, and these will grow nearly 1 metre tall, so they can, a mass planting of these can make a large impact in the garden and be really, really handy for warming the winter garden. Then you've got your cordyline, and cordyline you've got pinks. These days you've got pinks, you've got purples, you've got browns. And they're very, very tough, growing almost any soil, like an open sunny spot. But again, these are evergreen, and it used to be that some of the ones on the market used to discolour badly in the winter, but the breeders have bred that out of them. And this one here is called Pocahontas, and this will keep a nice rich purple right through the winter and not be worried by the weather at all, and give you a nice rich warm colour to have in the garden. And these days also you've got different sorts of cordylones. This particular cordyline here grows up like a palm tree. It'll grow up quite tall. You can trim it off and it'll sprout new heads. Or there are some new ones on the market which are clumping ones that they grow about 1.5 meters tall, and they're really, really bushy, but they don't grow trunks. They don't grow up tall like this one here. But basically they've got ones these days that are all different colours. So you've got all different coloured ones. They're tough, they're easy to grow, and you've got clumping ones that don't grow too tall, and then other ones that grow up like little palm trees, and this is one of those little palm tree type ones. Then a lovely source of winter colour is your heuchera, or heuchera. And these grow in a little bit of shade. They can grow under your deciduous trees, a little bit of shade, or in that sort of east-facing spot in the garden. Oh yeah, yeah. And these ones will grow. These ones here grow in. You grow these in an east-facing part of the garden, or grow them in dappled shade, and they're a beautiful source of colour. And these are great if you've only got, like if you've got, maybe you've got a deck and you've got pot plants on the deck, great as a pot plant in the deck, or great if you've only got little tiny garden beds, because they're quite a petite little thing, and they come. I just bought 3 of them in here, but there's a dozen or more colours on the market. You can see them all on the Hello Hello website. So really, really beautiful, and a great sort of winter warmth and colour. What's great is that if you take a flowering plant out in the winter, very often a patch of bad weather will wreck all the flowers. They'll all rot or something like that in a batch of bad weather. But these heucheras, they keep the colour on the foliage, and they're impervious to the bad weather. So they'll just keep on going all through the winter, giving you fabulous colour right into spring and summer. But the main thing with them is put them in a bit of a sheltered spot. Then Eugene, would you be able to get me a really nice big plum gorgeous from out there, please?
And if for anyone who's already commented questions in any of the comments, do know we are going to get to them. We're going to answer all the questions at the end of the live, just so that we can keep up with all the plants and just flow through all the different options here. So take it away, Chris.
Okay, now coprosmas. Coprosmas are one of the best plants around for winter colour, and these are these are tougher than cactuses. They're really, really pretty. Like, we'll look at up close, we'll really look at those colours there. Look at the colour. The colour is just fabulous. So really fabulous colour. Look at this one here. This is called Ignite. And brilliant, brilliant colour in that. Now, what can you do with a coprosma? If you lived, it wouldn't matter if you lived up 10 floors, a rooftop garden, 10 floors up in Melbourne, windy, hot, sunny, difficult site. This would be a fabulous pot plant for you. This would be a plant that you could. This would be a plant that you could just pop out there, not be worried about heat, wind, cold, frost, or anything. So, and also, I've seen it when you drive along the Great Ocean Road. There's quite a few houses that are badly affected. They're right where they get a bit of sea spray and that on them, and you'll find that these are one of the few plants that can take quite a bit of sea spray in some of those difficult spots along the Great Ocean Road. So if you're facing a beach, in an apartment up high, you need a pot plant. But even if you're just in any sort of garden, really anywhere, and you want some real colour in the garden, and with these there's purples, there's yellows, there's all different colours. And the other thing with coprosmas is you can cut them to shape. You can cut them into a round ball, or I've seen them cut into a square box. I've seen them cut into box-style hedges. Very, very versatile. And if you don't cut them, one like this one here is going to grow over 1 metre tall. So you can trim it and keep it 40, 50, 60, 70 centimetres tall. So very, very hardy, very versatile, and very, very colourful. And basically, the colder they are in the winter, the more intense the colour. So as it warms up in the summer, the colour becomes a little bit less intense, but in winter, when you really need the colour, and the colder it is, the stronger the colour. And certainly it takes, and the strong colours last right through to almost Christmas. And then when they start growing, the colour becomes a little bit less intense. But Coprosmas, lots of different colours to choose from, very, very hardy. Grow them as a round ball, grow them as a box, grow them in a pot, or grow them in the garden bed, alternate them, have multiple different colours, or combine them with something like a New Zealand flax. New Zealand flaxes, these emanate from New Zealand. They're not quite a New Zealand native. They're a native from New Zealand that the New Zealanders have bred into all different colours and things. But these mix up beautifully with your flaxes, and so you can put beautiful, colourful flaxes, contrasting in colour or complementing in colour, and make a sort of a really lovely garden out of them, and have fabulous winter colour. Now, what's becoming increasingly popular is your Loropetalum. This one here is called Plum Gorgeous, and this one here probably has the most beautiful coloured leaf of any of them. It's a fairly strong grower, and Loropetalums have the versatility, almost not quite the hardiness of a Coprosma, but they have the versatility of a Coprosma, because they can be trimmed into a neat shape, or they can be allowed to sprawl. They could be cut on top, and you can cut them on the top and just have them and have them almost as a sort of a tall ground cover, if you like, sort of like a low spreading bush or ground cover. But what's interesting is that you might need help from your nurseryman to choose exactly the right one for the right job. But there's one called Purple Prince, which is a very strong grower, and it can be used to make a 1 or 1.5, 2 metre hedge. It'll grow right up, make a beautiful hedge. And then there's other ones. We've got one called Purple Pixie, I think, which is a ground cover. And then we've got sort of ones that grow really low. There's 3 different bobs. We've got a Bob's green, a Bob's red, and a Bob's pink, and they're sort of nice medium-sized ones. And then the classic one is your China pink. So different ones grow slightly different ways, and you might need a bit of help to choose which one. Like, I'll often plant these in between, say, something like evergreen magnolias or teddy bear magnolias. Just having this low spreading purple bush between your evergreen magnolia can be really colourful and nice. And I also often interplant them with something like the Abelia kaleidoscope, which is sort of golds and greens. Or I use the stripy white liriope with it, which gives you a sort of beautiful sort of silvery colours mixed with light green colours. So it's a lovely plant to contrast, but a great source of colour, quite fast growing, and a wonderful plant for mass planting. So hedge, topiary, grow it tall, grow it low, just choose the right sort of Loropetalum. We'd have in stock in the store, we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, we'd have 6 or 7 different types of Loropetalum for you to choose from, and the reason why we have a range of them is that in different situations you do need different Loropetalums. But basically they'll grow in shade, they'll grow in full sun, they need fairly good soil, a little bit of summer water, and they love a bit of a feed, a bit of Osmocote or something like that. So they're a range of ideas for winter colour.
Incredible. And if you're finding that you haven't quite caught the plant name, or you're not really sure how to spell it, don't fret. We are going to post an article about this live, and it's going to go through all those plant names, and then you'll be able to find it on the website. So don't stress if you haven't quite caught all the plants mentioned today, because we've obviously gone through quite a bit. We are going to now answer some of the questions that have been asked of us throughout the live. And if you do have any other questions that have come up, comment them now and we will answer them. So first is a question from Maria. So she says, I purchased and planted the century maples and white hydrangeas. Is it okay that the leaves on the hydrangeas have turned a purple colour?
The hydrangea that turns a purple colour is something that I use all the time in my garden design. What it is some of the really fabulous hydrangeas on, some of the summer flowering ones, there's some fabulous newly bred varieties on the market with the most amazing summer flowers. But what happens when winter comes, they look like something from a horror movie. And so when I'm doing garden designs, and it sounds like that's one of my garden designs if it's Crimson Century and white hydrangeas. When I'm doing garden designs, I tend to use the oak leaf hydrangea, which is an old-fashioned hydrangea. Nothing new or fashionable about it, but what I love about it, my mum used to have them in her garden, and she had clumps of 3 or 4 of them together, and they stayed quite low. And then when winter came and all the other hydrangeas shed their leaves and just sat there with dead flowers, looking like something from a horror movie, our beautiful oak leaf hydrangeas would turn a lovely purple, and those purple leaves would stay there, sort of burgundies and purples would stay there all winter long. So a great source of winter colour, stay there all winter long. And then in springtime, the new leaves, the lovely little bright green oak leaves, would push off the purple ones and they'd all disappear and there would be a lovely time in spring where you had a mixture of lovely little bright green leaves and old purpley burgundy leaves that were falling off. And so I would say that what you've got is not just a white hydrangea, but if it's got purple leaves at this time of year, it's a oak leaf hydrangea, which is a great source of winter colour.
Amazing. So that actually sounds great, Maria. Not a problem at all. We also have a question from Lemma. And now I do believe you asked it around the time we were talking about the camellias. Please correct me if I'm wrong and just specify if you do remember the name of the plant. So do camellias grow in shaded spots, Chris? Yes,
actually what I was showing there was Sasanqua camellias. And at any rate, I learned the lesson the hard way. My dad had this little valley. We had quite a large nursery property. Had a little valley where the sun never shone. It was over a big tall mountain ash stood over the top of it, and the sun never went into the valley. And Dad told me to go down there and plant 2,000 or 3,000 Sasanqua camellias in the valley because he wanted them for stock plants. And I said, look, I don't think they're going to grow down there. I don't think we should do it, Dad. And he said, look, just go down and plant them. And so it took me weeks, and I went down there and planted them all. And years later, he'd tell me, I got 60,000 cuttings down there this year. And it was they grew fabulously and the most amazing source of cuttings, and the sun never shone in that valley. So basically, Sasanqua camellias can live off natural light with no sun. And I've seen them grow in the shadiest spots, under verandas, all sorts of places. But equally, where most of your japonica camellias, they're the ones with the bigger green leaves, where most of those will sunburn in a real hot sunny spot, your Sasanqua camellia will also thrive in a hot sunny spot as long as it's got water and fertilizer. So hot sun, half sun, no sun, Sasanqua camellia, and they're the sort that I was showing you before. Sasanqua camellias are great.
Amazing. So we hope that was the plant that you were asking about, but if not, just comment below. Even after the live, we'll respond to your comment if we did mistake which plant you were asking about. So we do these lives quite often, and we always cover a different topic each time we do a live like this. We actually have a weekly Monday Q&A session, which is purely just answering all the gardening questions you have. So if you have any other questions that come up for you in this following couple days, do be sure to join our Monday live, and then you can answer it there. Also, if you are connecting with the information we talk about here, you are our community. If there's anyone that you think would benefit from learning more about how to garden, if there's someone in your life who wants to start a garden, please let them know about these lives. We'd love to be able to share our information and our knowledge to a wider audience. We do have another question here from Maria saying, I did a garden design with Chris a few months ago and planted out his recommendations, but I may have purchased them quite small and I feel I need I need more plants. Can I bring in a photo to help with planting some more? Yeah, definitely, Maria, definitely. absolutely come to the Monday Live. But yeah, you can send us a photo, send Chris a photo.
What we could do is we could squeeze her in between garden designs just for a little go over.
Yep.
So what I'll do is I will get the girl that books the garden designs to contact you and just sort of squeeze you in. If you just let us know which day, Saturday or Sunday or weekday, when you want to come in, and we'll squeeze you in for a brief little no-cost visit.
Yeah, I'm sure we already have your contact details, Maria, from doing the previous garden design. So we'll just contact you again. If we have any problems, we'll just respond to your comment here and organise something to make sure that you are getting the correct plants. So if anyone has any other questions, please comment below. I'll give you about a minute to just file in any last questions. But yeah, just as we said, you know, if you didn't get a chance to ask anything today, don't worry, this isn't the last time. And we will have an article coming out on this topic. And if you are really wanting more options right now, hop onto our YouTube channel. We have a playlist about adding colour to your winter garden. And there we have tons and tons of plants, some that have been mentioned here and others that have not.
Actually, I'll just, while we're waiting for that 1 minute, what I was going to say is that I have those wonderful hydrangeas that just have the fabulous summer flowers but look a bit bleak in the winter. What I've been using them a bit in my garden designs, and what I've been doing to try and counteract the winter bleakness of some of those hydrangeas is I've been using Ajuga, and Ajuga comes in purples, and it comes, there's a beautiful one called Burgundy Glow which has sort of pinks and greys and really interesting colours in it. And I've been using Ajuga, and then I've been using Tapuna, which is a nice, it's a neat, I find the larger rock lily is a bit untidy, but it's a nice neat little New Zealand rock lily, and I put those in amongst it, and what'll happen when they go bare, you've got a kind of like a winter act that sort of was nestling under the hydrangeas a little bit, that sort of steps up and makes that area look less bleak for the winter. So don't not plant hydrangeas just because they go bleak in the winter. Ajugas and Tapunas give you lots of colour through the winter and make the hydrangeas look a lot less bleak. So don't just not plant them because they look bleak in the winter, but perhaps a little support act can allow you to enjoy those fabulous hydrangeas through the summer.
Amazing. We got a question here from David asking, what's a shallow root canopy tree that won't damage house foundation when planted near the house?
I reckon crepe myrtle or Japanese maple. Crepe myrtles, beautiful summer blossom, beautiful autumn colour, and then lovely patterns on the trunk in the winter. Once they mature, you get beautiful patterns. So fabulous tree, and they, like the Japanese maple, don't have a real extensive big root system. And then your Japanese maple. Now the thing with the Japanese maple is that there's all different sorts. You've got, and if you come in and talk to one of the staff here, what you'll find is that you can get one with red leaves in spring, summer and autumn, one with purple leaves, one with fine leaves. You get one with red stems, one with brown stems. And so basically, but the great thing is I used to dig up Japanese maples by hand up in the hills and bring them down to put in people's gardens, really large old ones. And it's amazing compared to other trees how few roots you have on a Japanese maple compared to other trees. And Japanese maples, my saying is that big trees have big roots, and Japanese maples compared to other trees don't grow big no matter how old they get. So Japanese maple, crepe myrtle, great for shallow rooted, trees that are not going to cause a problem.
Great. And here's a question from Ken asking, what is a small ornamental tree that is good for west sun?
There's you want something, well, I just said crepe myrtle. Crepe myrtle will take really, really hot sun as long as it's got a bit of water. But another one is a Korean sunset ornamental pear, and that's a beautiful small tree, lovely fine foliage, really, really lovely and very, very hardy.
Amazing. We're just going to circle back to David's question. They're asking if there's anything a bit bigger. They're wanting a canopy tree, so a bit bigger than a crepe myrtle or a Japanese maple.
Okay, so what you could do is you could go for a big Japanese maple. There's a Japanese maple called a trident maple, and that's going to do a good 6 metres, and it's going to have 6 or 7 metres, and it's going to have a lovely spread on it, and it doesn't have a terrible root system. So I would go, and also in the crepe myrtle, I would go with the Natchez is much bigger than the rest of them. So Natchez, I mean, we even have, if you look on our website, you can even buy a 6 metre Natchez. So Natchez will grow quite big. So I think, and they both, and your Trident maple is a 3-lobed Japanese maple with lovely fine foliage, beautiful autumn colour, really lovely tree, but a bit more vigorous, a bit more hardy and larger growing than a normal Japanese maple.
Great. We hope that helped, David. So we're going to wrap up the live now. Thank you everyone who came and participated. We really appreciate it, and we love answering all your gardening questions. So please do share these lives with your friends, your family, anyone you think would benefit from the information of how to add colour and warmth to your winter garden.
Okay, thank you very much.